A dream too big. Many years ago in America, there lived a man named Daniel Harper. Daniel was not poor in spirit, but he was poor in money. He worked long hours as a small fuel distributor, driving from town to town selling oil to farmers and small factories. Every day, he watched large tanker trucks pass on the highway, carrying millions of dollars worth of fuel owned by giant companies. Every time he saw those trucks, the same thought filled his mind. One day, I will build a company like that. Daniel dreamed of owning a major oil distribution business. He studied the industry constantly, how fuel moved from refineries, how contracts worked, how companies managed transportation and storage. He had the knowledge. He had the vision. But there was one problem: money. To start the company he imagined, he needed far more capital than he possessed. After years of saving, borrowing from relatives, and selling almost everything he owned, Daniel had managed to gather only half of what he needed. Half. Close enough to taste success, but still far enough to fail. For weeks he struggled with doubt. Every night he calculated numbers on paper. Every morning he erased them again. One scorching summer afternoon, exhausted and discouraged, Daniel sat alone in a quiet city park. That was the day everything changed. A strange encounter. The sun burned brightly overhead, and the park was almost empty. Daniel sat on a wooden bench staring at his notes. Numbers filled the pages of his small notebook, but none of them solved the problem. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the bench. An elderly man stood beside him. The stranger looked to be in his 70s. His hair was completely white, but his posture was strong. He wore an old but elegant suit and carried a walking cane. The old man looked at Daniel's papers. "You look troubled, young man," he said calmly. Daniel forced a polite smile. "Just thinking about business." The old man sat beside him. "What kind of business?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, but then decided to answer honestly. After all, this stranger meant nothing to him. "I want to start an oil company," Daniel said. "A big one." The old man raised his eyebrows. "That sounds ambitious." Daniel nodded. "I've studied the industry for years. I know how it works. I have contacts ready. I even have contracts waiting. So what's stopping you?" Daniel sighed. "Money." The unbelievable offer. Daniel explained everything. He described his business plan, his research, and the opportunities he believed were waiting. Then he explained the painful truth. "I only have half the capital required. Without the rest, I can't start." The old man listened carefully without interrupting. When Daniel finished speaking, the old man reached into the pocket of his coat. He slowly pulled out a checkbook. Daniel watched with curiosity. The old man wrote something carefully on a check, tore it out, and handed it to Daniel. Daniel looked down. His heart nearly stopped. The amount written on the check was $20 million, and the signature at the bottom read, "John D. Rockefeller." Daniel's hands began to shake. He looked up at the old man in disbelief. This can't be real." The old man smiled. "Take it," he said calmly. Daniel stared at the check again. $20 million. More than enough to launch the company of his dreams. "But why would you give me this?" Daniel asked. The old man stood up. "I believe in people who believe in themselves." Then he added one final sentence. "Meet me here in exactly 1 year. If you cannot return the money by then, well, let us hope you succeed." With that, the old man turned and slowly walked away. Daniel sat frozen on the bench, holding the check that could change his life forever. The decision. That evening, Daniel returned home, still holding the check. He placed it on the table and stared at it for hours. Should he go to the bank? Should he cash it? $20 million could instantly solve every problem. But something about the situation felt strange. Finally, Daniel made a decision. He placed the check inside a small locked drawer. "I will not touch it," he whispered to himself. Instead, he would build his company using only the money he already had. The check would simply be his backup plan, a safety net. If things went wrong, he could always use it. Knowing that safety net existed gave Daniel something he had been missing for months: confidence. The power of belief. From that moment forward, Daniel worked harder than ever before. The knowledge that he had $20 million waiting in reserve gave him courage. He negotiated contracts boldly. He invested his small capital wisely. He took calculated risks he had been afraid to take before. When banks questioned his plans, he spoke with confidence. When partners hesitated, he reassured them. Slowly, the business began to grow. Daniel purchased his first small fleet of trucks. Then he signed distribution agreements with several regional suppliers. Within 6 months, the company doubled in size. Within 9 months, it tripled. Daniel often opened the drawer where the check rested. He would look at it for a moment. Then he would close the drawer again and continue working. He never cashed it, but its presence gave him unstoppable determination. Success without the check. As the year progressed, something remarkable happened. Daniel no longer needed the check at all. His business had grown strong enough to stand on its own. New investors joined. Banks offered financing. Large fuel contracts began arriving from industrial customers. By the 10th month, Daniel's company had become one of the fastest-growing fuel distributors in the region. His dream was finally becoming reality, and he had accomplished it without touching the $20 million check. For the first time, Daniel realized something important. The check had not created his success. His belief had. The day of the promise. Exactly 1 year after the strange meeting in the park, Daniel returned to the same wooden bench. He arrived early. The check was safely inside his pocket. Daniel smiled as he looked around the park. So much had changed in 1 year. His company now employed dozens of workers. His trucks traveled across several states. And he had earned far more money than he originally needed to start the business. Finally, the old man appeared, walking slowly along the park path. Daniel stood up respectfully. "Sir," he said gratefully, "I've been waiting to thank you." The old man looked nervous. "Did you bring my money?" Daniel laughed warmly. "Yes," he said, holding up the check. "But the truth is, I never needed it." The unexpected truth. Daniel began explaining everything. He described how the check had inspired him to believe in himself, how it had given him the courage to build his company, how he had succeeded without ever cashing it. But before he could finish speaking, 2 women wearing white uniforms hurried toward them. They were nurses. One of them gently grabbed the old man's arm. "There you are," she said. "We've been searching everywhere." Daniel looked confused. "What's going on?" he asked. One nurse turned to him apologetically. "I'm sorry, sir," she said. "This man escaped from the nearby nursing home." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean?" The nurse sighed. "He's harmless, but he believes he is John D. Rockefeller. He signs fake checks and gives them to strangers." Daniel slowly looked down at the check in his hand. The nurses carefully led the old man away. The elderly man waved cheerfully as he left. "Good luck with your business," he called out. Daniel stood alone in the park, silent. Then he began to laugh. The real secret. Daniel folded the check and placed it back in his pocket. The paper itself had never been worth anything. The signature had never been real. But the belief it created had been priceless. For an entire year, Daniel had acted with the confidence of a man who had unlimited financial support. And that confidence had unlocked his true potential. The strange old man had never given him $20 million. He had given him something far more powerful: belief. The lesson. Many people wait their entire lives for the perfect opportunity. They believe success requires unlimited resources, powerful connections, or extraordinary luck. But often the greatest barrier is something much simpler: doubt. Daniel Harper succeeded not because he had a fortune behind him, but because he believed he did. And once he believed, He acted with courage, determination, and persistence. Sometimes the greatest investment anyone can receive is not money. It is confidence. Because when a person truly believes in their own ability, even an empty check can change their life forever. Disturbed and confused, Daniel watched as the man walked away with the sisters until they disappeared from sight. Then he slowly wiped the tears from his face.